My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
And I'm Robert. In every episode, we're bringing you faith stories and fishing memories from some amazing members of the fishing community.
So join us as we shed a positive light on all things faith and fishing. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And we are both back. It's been a while since we've both been up here. So I figured what better time to just kind of take it easy and kind of catch up with what's been going on with your host of Faith and Fishing. We've got some big guests coming up. So excited about that. But in the meantime, let's just kind of get caught up. But first, Robert, how are you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Just, kind of plugging along and keeping work straight. I've been able to fish a little bit on my lunch breaks. Haven't really got out to take the kayak out any, but I have been doing some work on the trailer. For my kayak, I put some bigger wheels on that because I was changing bearings all the time because I had some small, the smallest wheels you could put on a boat trailer. I don't even know why somebody would put wheels that small on a boat trailer, but I switched them out to 13-inch wheels and then had to re-weld some fenders back on it, and still working on the platform. I want to put a platform on it instead of the runners and carpet it so it's a solid piece at the bottom. So I kind of been piddling around with that, and that's about it. We got baseball started back up. So we've had 3 tournaments this fall already. So that takes up a lot of my Saturdays and Sundays. We're off for a couple weeks, but we had basketball this weekend and cross country. So we're doubled up on that. And then, my wife's running a couple races, and then in a couple weeks, they're doing something really crazy. They're running something called the Tuna Run, which my wife and my oldest son have done several times. That's a relay race, and they run from Raleigh to Atlantic Beach. It's 200 and something miles, and it's a relay race. So they all take turns. They start out at 5:30 a.m. on Friday, and they pass the baton every 5 to 10 miles to the next person, and they go all the way to Atlantic Beach, and they go all night, and they finish on Saturday about 1:00 and have some festivities on the circle in Atlantic Beach. So I would be cheering them on a little bit, but I'm not doing any of the running, so that's a good thing. What about you? How you been doing?
Man, I'm tired. Things have been absolutely hectic at work. I know I missed last week's episode with Jeff, and you did a fantastic job hosting that one. Jeff was an awesome guest. I enjoyed listening to that episode. Went in a lot of directions that I was not expecting, and I really enjoyed. And I'll be honest, I don't know that if I were on the episode, it would have gone that direction. So I'm glad that those stories got to be shared. Definitely would love to have Jeff back on sometime. And I had no idea they were that tall either. That's how I felt whenever I met Brad and Matt from the Catch podcast. Whenever I met them over at the Dale Hollow trip, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are huge. Because Brad's like 6'1", 6'2", and Matt's like 6'2", 6'3". But like whenever you see them on here, they're like, they punch down like this and everything. But yeah, they're tall guys too. So I feel like there's a lot of tall guys, and I feel like I'm not short until I'm around the kayak fishing community. But
there's some short guys in the community too.
There are.
It's kind of crazy on YouTube and everything else. You can't really tell. And I try to gauge people's size by the kayak they're in too. But, then the GoPros make everything, distorted on the smaller side. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of guys that might be a little smaller than some of the rest of us, I wanted to give a shout out to Andrew over at Tackle Talk Podcast. He just shared on Facebook and social media that the Tackle Talk Podcast has now hit 3 million downloads. So huge congratulations to them, or I guess to him, and to that podcast. It's a phenomenal podcast. If y'all have not checked it out, please do so. But I did the math, and if I'm correct on this, I'm pretty sure that puts his averages, for podcast episodes way over what we have done in total for all of our episodes. And we are pretty close in, I think I'll have to go back and look. We're I don't know if we're definitely not as many episodes as he has, but we're not shy on episodes either. So, but yeah, huge congratulations to him. Very well earned on that. Like I said, it's a phenomenal show, very well produced, great content, great topics, great guests. So if you have not checked that one out, definitely go do that. I am wearing my Just Make Being a Good Person a Priority shirt. Y'all, if you have not gone back and listened to our episode a couple weeks ago with Lonnie Ellerby, definitely go check that one out. Just wanted to remind y'all that if you go to our merch store and purchase this shirt, all proceeds are going to go to DreamWorks Outdoors to go straight into those workshops that he does to teach kids about the outdoors. And then the other quote shirt that we have is the Russell Dillon shirt. So if you purchase that one, those proceeds are going to go to Make-A-Wish Foundation for the purpose of taking a kid fishing whose wish is to go fishing with someone in particular. So definitely don't be afraid to go check that out. So yeah, we were talking about kind of what we've been up to. Let's take a couple sponsors, and then we'll dive into what I've had going on, because I've had a little bit going on. I've learned a lot, and once I get going, I don't know when I'm going to stop. So let's go ahead and take some sponsors.
Sounds good.
Few things ruin your day on the water as bad as losing gear. But with the retrieval devices for fishing rods, action cams, bow fishing bows, and more from Save Your Outdoors, you don't have to let dropping your stuff ruin your day, because you can get it back. The pressure-sensitive filter keeps water from rain and quick dips in the water out, but it lets water in when your gear goes overboard to release a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back. Go to SaveYourOutdoors.com to learn more and try some for yourself, and use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% on your order. That's SaveYourOutdoors.com and promo code FNFP15. Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality handcrafted lures and has been for 30 years, right here in the U.S. Using all-metal components, Owner and Gamakatsu hooks, and silicone or frog hair skirts, Mr. B is pumping out some awesome spinnerbaits, jigs, buzzbaits, underspins, and more, including some of the most unique bladed jigs on the market. To fill up your tackle box, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, and use promo code faithnfishnpod1x10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. That's Faith, the letter N, Fish, the letter N, Pod. So Faith and Fishing Pod, just like our Instagram handle, 1x10. All right. So, since we kind of talked about what's been going on, I was gonna say about last week's episode. The reason that I was not there is during some waterproofing and fireproofing that we were doing, some fire rated expanding foam got into one of our grease lines. The pipe collapsed under the pressure of the foam and shot out. The foam shot out in either direction about 15 feet or so. And as you can imagine, completely clogged that grease line. That foam ends up being like concrete. It was a mess. It took our plumbing team quite a while to get all the way through it. So that's what I was dealing with while y'all were having y'all's awesome conversation. But yeah, since we last talked about what's been going on, I have gotten to go fishing twice. One of them was a bank fishing excursion for carp. And I got extremely frustrated because I had been going to this pond for like 3 days. Like I had stopped by to watch the carp, and they were eating right at this hydrilla line. And I was like, man, I can flip some boilies right in there, and we'll be set. And they were right there whenever I set up. And as soon as my bait hit the water, every turtle within a 10-mile radius showed up. As soon as my bait hit the water, it was being very slowly pulled by a turtle in another direction. And I got so frustrated with those turtles. I was using a hair rig, so I didn't hook most of them. One of them got nabbed in the foot. But that was super frustrating. But then the other time I did get a chance to take the kayak out. So I went out to Crabtree, and it was only the second time this year so far. And it was a very productive trip. But I learned a lot on this trip. So, I ended up catching a handful on the crankbait on a square bill. Most of them were catfish because once the rain started, I was going. It was one weekend day where it was kind of overcast and it kind of rained off and on. And once the rain started, those catfish just woke up. I mean, almost every cast, I had a catfish chasing it to the top of the water. Wow. And so I caught a bunch of catfish. Most of them were in that 6-inch range and all the way up to as long as my forearm. That one was probably 3.5, 4 pounds. And every fish I caught was either on that square bill or on Texas rig D-bomb. I opened my bladed jig box, and I did not have any more black and blue except a jackhammer. And so I got to having fished the Mr. B bladed jig for so long, exclusively, I got to tie on that jackhammer again and really kind of feel and see the difference. And here is what I have learned. The jackhammer hunts way better, but the Mr. B has a much more aggressive thump. Yes. You feel it, you feel that thump all the way down in your gut. whenever it's going. Whenever the first cast on the jackhammer, I was like, is this thing even vibrating? Like, I don't feel it at all because I was so used to the Mr. B. In terms of like action, like I said, the jackhammer does hunt better. But I mean, in terms of it starting up, I didn't really see that much of a difference. In terms of like how fast it starts up on the vibrating. The biggest letdown for me, and I don't know if maybe this was not a brand new jackhammer, so maybe I'd hit something with it and bent the point or something. Biggest letdown for me was I got 8 bites on the jackhammer. I hooked 2 fish on the jackhammer. I landed 0 fish on the jackhammer.
Oh, wow.
And so I don't know what it was. I don't know. I've heard like Fluke Master and others saying that, whenever they bite, they like clamp down so hard on the line that you can't set the hook. Maybe that's what happened. But one of those fish that got loose was the biggest bass to ever be on the end of my line. And I was not happy about losing that one. It was it was massive. I don't know how big it was, but it was over 7. Because I mean, my PB is 7, and it was that 7 was not even 21 inches long.
Yeah.
This one was every bit as long as that one that I caught whenever you and I went the first time.
Yeah.
But it had a belly on it. Like it was probably in that 7.5 to 8 pound range. I mean, I was not happy. So I don't know what the reason was. I'm sure that there's somebody screaming at the podcast right now saying, well, you should have done this, or you should have done that, or this is why this kind of rod is better and this kind of rod is not, and all that kind of stuff. All I can tell you is I lost a lot of fish on the jackhammer that I would not have lost on the Mr. B Lure Company Bladed Jig. And I'm not out here trying to bash ZMan or anything. I mean, the thing got bit. So I mean, it's definitely not a bad lure, but I mean, for half the price with a better hookup ratio, I'm going with Mr. B every time. So from here on out, if I don't have black and blue, I'm just going to tie on the chartreuse one. I'm not even gonna try. So I know there's a lot of people that swear by the jackhammer, and I used to swear by the jackhammer. But yeah, I mean, different strokes for different folks. But yeah, that was something that I found out the hard way. But yeah, it did end up being a really fun outing. Caught a bunch of fish. Yeah, most of them were catfish, but that's something. That's why like tournament fishing kind of takes some of the fun out of it for me, because like to me, if I ever catch like a huge catfish and I'm disappointed by it, that's not what I want out of fishing. Like I want to enjoy every fish that I catch, whether it be a shiner, that's this big that it's the first time I've ever caught one, or whether it be my new personal best bass. I want to enjoy, every fish that I catch. So, and I mean, I do really, really enjoy the camaraderie side of tournament angling. And, I mean, shout out to CCKF. I am not at liberty to discuss a lot of the stuff that's going down, but if you're in the Triangle area, you're going to want to be fishing CCKF next year. There's going to be a lot of fun things going on, a lot of exciting things to happen for the trail. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, we got a chance to do some fishing, hoping to get some more here pretty soon. take advantage of this fall transition, and because we're starting to, the water's cooling down a little bit, and we're starting to enjoy some of that fall type fishing. So, or at least getting close to it. But yeah, I kind of took over there for a second. You need any?
No, you're good. No, I agree with everything that you were just talking about. I've got one of the Mr. B's bladed jigs tied on, and there is a difference, no doubt about it, on the thump on that. It thumps way harder, and I like the jackhammers, but I'm more a Thunder Cricket. I like those. I think, to me, I catch more fish on the Thunder Cricket than the jackhammer. But the Mr. B's may replace both of those, just because I've been throwing it lately and had a little bit of success on it. But you can feel the difference on it, just like you said. So I'm interested to keep throwing that and kind of see how that goes. And, I like catching any fish. I like catching all the fish too. But after I caught a catfish and he gets slime all over the kayak, I get a little pissy when they get slime all over everything. That's my only downfall. I used to hate to catch them in a boat because it'd get all over the carpet, and it just, man, those things are.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time getting the dang hooks out of them, because their skin and lips are so tough, like leather. I mean,
right.
It's hard to get the dang hooks out of those things. But if you fish Sharon Harris very much and fish with a bladed jig, you're going to catch some catfish on it.
Oh yeah. Sharon Harris is where I caught my first white catfish, and they have a bunch of white catfish. And I'm part of a like fish identification group on Facebook, where, like, if somebody catches a fish and they're not exactly sure what kind it is, they ask the community. And I was like, I caught this catfish. It's got the head of a bullhead, but it's got a forked tail. I don't understand what this is. And they're like, yep, that's textbook white catfish. So, and there are a lot of them in Harris. You were right. I catch them on crankbaits all the time too. But I don't know if I've ever thrown the Thunder Cricket. So I don't know.
Yeah, so it came out about the same time as the jack, right after that, and it's the blade to the head is the same as the jackhammer. They somehow worked with ZMan and got that license where they could, but the blade is a different shape. And that's what I caught that 9-1 on Jordan on that black and blue Thunder Cricket. That's probably why I like it so much, just because of that one fish. But
and that's why I like the Mr. B's. That's what I caught that 7 on.
Yeah, so it's kind of, who knows how much difference there is. I know a lot of people swear by the jackhammers, and I know there's a handful of people that I talk to that say that they think the Thunder Cricket's better. And then you have everybody that's, like Mr. B. I mean, one good thing about it is not a lot of people are throwing that. It's not, you can't just go to, Bass Pro and pick that up.
Right.
You can't, you have to special order it. And some of these small bait makers, you get a variance in that cadence, or it's thumping a little bit harder, and it makes a difference. I've got some spinner baits sitting in my cart now that are, a smaller bait maker, and, I haven't hit the purchase button yet, but I have them sitting in my cart online because I'm intrigued by by these spinner baits. And usually I throw one I get off of Omni. It's called Bassman, and it's a little bit smaller profile spinnerbait, and I've loved those things, but I can't wait to get these other ones as well. The Bassman ones, I've thrown so much, I've started to wear them out, and I've lost a blade on one not too long ago that I need to replace. But tell tell us a little bit about your weekend last weekend. I know we were both supposed to do some master classing, and I had baseball scheduled on top of that, so I didn't get to attend it, even though I was really looking forward to it. But fishing will be there long after the baseball for my kids stop, so I had to go with the baseball.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to brown nose too much, but I will say that that I use the Mr. B spinner baits also, and I'm not a huge spinner bait guy. I'm still learning the spinner bait, but they have a color called Bozo, and it is pink and white, and it's got the white painted blades, and that is a phenomenal color right there. But anyways, yeah. So we will let's talk about that Cashion Masterclass, but first let's thank a couple sponsors.
Sounds good. That was quick.
I'm very confused. If a fly rod is your weapon of choice, check out Atollas. Their fly caddy is the most convenient way to get your favorite flies to the water, or just keep them handy by clipping it to your hat, truck visor, backpack, rod case, or just whatever. You can also bundle it up with flies from independent fly tires that Atollas has teamed up with through their Fly Light project. Choose from bundles specializing in redfish, carp, saltwater, or freshwater. Head over to atollas.co, that's ATOLLAS.co, to get your fly caddy today and use promo code faithnfishn15 to save 15% on your order. That's faith the letter N, fish the number 15 at checkout for 15% off. If finesse fishing is your comfort zone, something you want to learn better this year, or just something you like to tie on as a Hail Mary pass, Jade's Jigs has everything you need and more, and it's all eco-friendly and lead-free. With an awesome selection of baits and colors, they've got a variety of techniques covered for you. Finesse jigs, underspins, Nico weights, Ned rigs, and more are all waiting for you at jadesjigs.com. And while you're there, use promo code FNF10 for 10% off your purchase. That's jadesjigs.com and promo code FNF10 for 10% off. All right, so it's starting to lag a little bit again. Had to click the ad a few times and then had to wait to be unmuted. So I don't know if it's my internet or if something started up or what, but anyways, yeah. So this past Saturday, Cashion Rods had their annual kayak fishing masterclass, and so that was a pretty awesome time. Cashion knows how to put on something like that for sure. They had vendors out there, so that you could purchase stuff or get to know information on stuff. So they had Hobie eyewear out there. So super lightweight, really comfortable floating sunglasses. Kind of right up my alley, and they're not stupid expensive. They range from like $90 to $110. So that was pretty cool. And their main sales rep lives right here in the Triangle, so that's pretty cool. And then the guys from One Cast Fishing were out there. So the One Cast, we had Pete Shandrick on a while back. And so he and Trey and Ben were out there, got a chance to meet those guys. That was pretty awesome. And then they had a representative from KBF out there too, talking about some of the new stuff that they've got going on. So that was pretty cool. But it was a Q&A style event. And so they had 4 absolutely phenomenal instructors. So I got a chance to meet Jody Queen, Casey Reed, Corey Dreyer, and Matt Ball. So Matt Ball is one of the newer guys on the Cashion team, and we've had him on the podcast before, and getting a chance to meet him in person was really awesome. And I mean, just an awesome guy. Jody's an awesome guy. They were all awesome. Getting a chance to just sit and talk to them and ask questions and all that good stuff. They just really knowledgeable. I learned a lot. One of the main things that I learned was I'm fishing too slow. Not in terms of like how fast I'm reeling the lure or whatever, but in terms
how much water you're covering.
In terms of how long I spend in dead water.
Yeah.
I'm fishing way too slow. Like I don't need to beat this one section apart if it's not productive. I need to move on and keep going. So, another big thing that I learned was, I am the finesse techniques that I'm using. I'm going a little bit too finesse for where I'm at. Listening to these guys, these guys are fishing a drop shot on a medium heavy and like setting the hook on it. And I'm like, oh wow. Like I was using like medium light, like it felt like an ultra light, and I'm like using mosquito hooks and like, so like, getting to know, and then, they drop some of the, some special juice as well. And I'm not going to spill it on here because it's not my juice to share. And, guys paid to go to this masterclass, and I'm not going to just share all of it for everybody so that everybody can get it for free. But those are just a couple of things that like applied directly to me that I'm like, oh, this is what I personally, am getting out of this. So, got a chance to see the new Icon spinnerbait rod before it was released, so that was cool. Matt Cashion, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry I missed you. I was looking forward to seeing you, but I know you had other obligations or something going on. You weren't able to be there, but I'll have to catch up with you later. But yeah, so that was awesome. Casey and Corey had some boats set up to kind of look at and get to know, and it was interesting looking at some of the stuff that they had tied on their rods. And let's see, I got a chance to meet Jody's wife, and I don't do peaches. I've never enjoyed peaches, but she made a peach cobbler that everybody there was raving about. They fed us fried chicken and green beans and baked beans and mac and cheese, and she cooked that peach cobbler. So everybody was just talking about how good that cobbler was. So, yeah, if you did not get a chance to go, I definitely we'll let you know. I think you missed out on something, and you definitely need to try to go to the next one. Because I mean, just like the last ones that you and I have both been to, they did a factory tour. And every time I go on that tour, I learn something new. So yeah, it was a good time. And main thing was just, meeting those guys and getting a chance to meet them face to face. And, I've got my antivirus is telling me it needs to restart the computer. Let me tell it to wait until tomorrow. There we go. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'm all thrown off now, but meeting those guys, got a chance to hang out with Mitch from CCKF and kind of sit with him for a while and talk. He's a fun guy to sit next to at one of these things, for sure. And then, oh man, the name is blanking on me, but his tagline is the world's okayest kayak fisherman or kayak angler. Got a chance to sit near him and talk to him a little bit too, so that was fun. But yeah, just an awesome group of people. That good representation for the kayak fishing community and the fishing community in general. I know the One Cast guys, they are building a community of anglers, helping anglers one cast at a time. And anytime you get a chance to listen to them talk or listen to one of their episodes or meet them in person or whatever, like that, just you definitely get that from them. So it was really cool to meet those guys. And Cashion put together an awesome gift bag for everybody that was there, with some stuff from Missile Baits and Spro and One Cast and Yak Attack, and then just really really well done. I really enjoyed it, and
I should have told you to grab my bag. Because I had signed up and paid for it like 2 months ago, and then they scheduled the baseball, and I'm like, well, I gotta get a baseball. I can't miss baseball to go to the Masterclass. I went to it last year, and man, it is like you said, just a fellowship with the other anglers, and hear some of these guys with their success, talk about some of the stuff that they do. And there's, you talk about juice, there's so much things that they say and go over that you're like, I never thought about it that way. Or, and it's just these small tidbits that make a difference. And that's like you said, going to those things, you learn so much. And, for anybody that's in the Raleigh area, North Carolina, even South Carolina, man, it's worth a couple hour drive to come to those things.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, it is.
Because these guys, they're giving up specific colors, specific baits, techniques. There was a lot of talk about how to use your electronics, specifically forward-facing sonar. So we have done a good job of skirting around that conversation so far.
Yeah. I got some things I want to talk about that, though. It's not the normal, should we have it or not have it, but, go ahead and close out our Cashion deal, and then we'll get into that. Just some things I saw over this past week, which will be a week and a half when this airs, but.
Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was really pretty much all I had. I will say, I kind of put my thoughts out about forward-facing sonar on, I think it was one of Bailey's posts on Instagram.
Yeah.
I kind of view forward-facing sonar. I'm not in the camp of it should be banned, but I kind of view it as the same as like the 3-point shot in basketball or in the NBA. It changed the game. It's taken the NBA a lot longer to get to this point, but it has made it kind of boring to watch. In the same way that forward-facing sonar does, and in the same way that forward-facing sonar does, it's something that if it's in your repertoire, you're using it, and if it's not, then you feel like you're getting beat by it. But what I said on Bailey's post was, in the NBA, you had all of these centers that were just so good that it didn't matter how about that other people had the 3-point shot. You had, David Robinson and Shaq and Hakeem Olajuwon and Patrick Ewing and, these these huge guys that were like holding down the center that, they were even later on, you had these great post players, that, like Big Al, Jefferson, they scored so much in the paint that they commanded that inside out style. And, it's just kind of gotten now to the point where, teams are not drafting people unless they have that 3-point shot. So, it's starting to kind of get to the point where it's all 3-point shots, and that's all it is. And so in fishing, we don't really have those centers that are holding it down. Like, I don't need forward facing sonar, so I'm going to go out and do my thing. I mean, you've got, I know, like, who do we have? Drew Gregory? Maybe Keith
Drew, Poche, Jordan Marshall. There's some guys out there that are shallow fishing, and
there are some, but we don't have those guys that are just so good at it that that we just like it holds the growth back from that, or it keeps the sport grounded in that kind of realm. But at the same time, we also are in a sport that I might be opening up another can of worms here, but we're also in a sport that whenever somebody is good enough that they're going to hold that down, they're going to, create rules or they're going to change rules so that they're not as good, and you still have to use forward facing sonar. But anyways,
well, yeah, I mean, that's already changed. I mean,
I'll let you do
they've already changed some. I don't like the designated ramps. I like, being able to go out anywhere that's public access.
I wasn't going to call it specific.
Oh, I will. But I don't care, because I mean, it's not. I'm going out of the ramps anyway most of the time. I don't have a super light kayak that I can go put in, but I don't think those guys that want to do that should be handicapped by going out of a ramp where you have to have a motor or a pedal drive to pedal 4 miles to get to where you want to go. I think if there's an overpass that somebody can slide a light kayak down and they want to do that, I think they should be able to do that, because that's their advantage. That's their forward facing sonar, is to be able to get to those spots. So I don't think you should take that away from those guys. And that's one thing I'm looking forward to on the Kayak Adventure Series is a lot of different bodies of water you can put in pretty much anywhere you want to. I think it's going to highlight the versatility of kayaks better than some of the trails that are doing things now. I just think I think people make a big deal about things that really shouldn't be a big deal. Going and dropping off of a side of a road or dragging across public land to get to some water, it shouldn't be a big deal. If that dude wants to go haul that kayak a half a mile through brush to get to a tributary, man, have at it. But the thing I want to share about forward-facing sonar is I saw a tidbit, and I think it was on an elite broadcast. I think Humminbird was able to get the live screen that one of the anglers was using, and it may have been a couple of times they've shown that on a split screen with the angler, but it's been only super brief, and it hasn't been like part of the broadcast per se. Like, it wasn't like something that was gone back to. It was just like, here's kind of what they're looking at, and it was wasn't done very well. Last week I tuned into the NPFL, which I watch those guys quite a bit. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a National Professional Fishing League, and it's a trail that got started a couple of years back. This may be their second full year, I think. And they have some bigger names fishing it. Patrick Walters is one of the guys that are on there, but I think this last tournament they had somewhere like 80 anglers. They showed a split screen, and sometimes it was almost a full screen of the angler and the live scope. And those anglers did such a great job of explaining what they were looking at. You can go on Instagram, and there's several clips of it. If you search on Instagram, Luke Duncan, he's one of the hosts. He hosts the broadcast along with Fat Cat Newton. On a sidebar on that, if you go and you listen to Luke Duncan's podcast, last Monday he had Fat Cat on there. One of the greatest podcasts. I feel like those guys did an excellent job of talking about a ton of different things on there. I think it's live, not so live. But back to the broadcast, those guys showed that split screen, and they would show the angler, and then down at the bottom right-hand fourth of the screen, it would show the live scope. And then when they would throw the bait in, they would expand the live scope to almost the whole screen. You could still see the angler behind it, but it was really covering up 75% of the screen. And to hear those guys break that down, you could see the bait on there. You could see the fish on there. You could see their bait falling and the fish going to it. And all the talk of this is boring to watch. Me personally, I could have watched that all day long. Not only is it very interesting to me to see how they were reacting to different baits, they showed that several times. And now I was kind of in and out because I was working as well as had that on the screen on the computer, which I was doing work too. So I was kind of flipping back and forth. I didn't see, the entire 100% of the broadcast, but what I did see, I saw a lot more of them trying to figure out fish behaviors, how they're reacting to baits, colors, how, if they're moving the bait slightly, could they get a fish to bite? But out of everything that I saw, I only saw one fish catch on while it was happening. And, I don't have live scope. A lot of people, I think, is it going to be beneficial? Yes, but I don't think it's going to be going out there and you can go read the comments on Instagram because people are commenting, oh, it's video game fishing, it should be banned. And then the next one is like, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. So it's either it's almost a love-hate. Either you love it or you want it banned because it's ruining fishing. But I think the people that are on the side of like hardcore, I want it banned, I'm not real sure that they understand. Like, it's not, you just don't go out and turn it on and start reeling fish in. I think it's more of a learning tool. It's almost like, I think example today, I caught a fish today on a topwater lure that the pond that I went to had cleared up some, and I threw a little, it wasn't a Zara spook. It was I think it's called a Zara tiny torpedo. And it's a topwater bait that's only like 1.5 inches long, and it's a prop bait. It's got a propeller on the back.
I love a torpedo. Yeah. Especially the tiny torpedo. If you're pond hopping, there is no better topwater bait than a heading tiny torpedo.
Yeah, that's what I was throwing. And so I reeled it past a patch of grass, and I stopped it, and I could see the bass swim right up to it. And of course, he's sitting there like this, right up under the torpedo. And I could tell he wanted to eat it. And so I twitched it a little bit. He moved up a little bit, and I twitched it a little harder, and he hit it. And that's basically what live scope is doing, is allowing you to see that when the water's not clear. It's almost like sight fishing when it's not clear, but it's not, I just think it lets you in on so much more information than we've ever had before, because in the South, the water's so dirty that you don't get those opportunities very much. It's not like going some of these, some of the rivers are a little bit clear, but up north you got a lot clearer water. Some of the mountain lakes up here, it gets a little clearer, but you don't get a lot in this dirty water. You don't get to see those fish interact with the baits. And I think that live scope is allowing people to do that. And I just think it's going to make the learning curve on how you present your baits and stuff a lot shorter. So that was super enjoyable. So if you didn't get to see any of that footage, I highly recommend go check that out. You do have to download an app to watch some of their live streams on there, but you can see the footage I'm talking about. And I think their Instagram, I think it's the National PFL. So it's not NPFL. I think it's the spelled out, National spelled out, and PFL for Professional Fishing League. But go check those things out and check out some of that footage because it is pretty interesting. And I also have to give props to those guys for being the smallest fish as far as bass fishing leagues. You got the smallest dudes out there who are, scrapping for everything that they can get, every view that they can get. And these guys blew it out of the water with that coverage. And I felt like, you can go back on other podcasts, I've said it many times before, and people are complaining about how boring it is to watch. Put a split screen on there and show us what they're looking at. And then you don't have to complain about them looking down because you can see what they're looking at. And it is super entertaining. But I'm glad that they pulled it off. And next year, you're going to see that on every bass fishing broadcast. There's no way if I'm somebody doing production for MLF or the Elites or the Bassmaster Classic for that matter, there's no way that you cannot have that screen and that view and have the coverage of the live scope stuff. You just can't. And I'm so glad that NPFL kind of got that on the end zone before anybody else did. And so that was my kind of my thought on that.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I don't spend a lot of time watching pro fishing, especially not day of. But I will say this, and this goes for any sports broadcast. With or without the split screen, if you have the right announcers and color analysts and the people, if you have the right people talking, it doesn't matter what's happening on the screen. It's not boring.
I agreed.
And Luke Duncan and Fat Cat Newton are the right people for that.
Yeah.
They are the right personalities to have doing something like announcing, like doing a play-by-play of professional fishing. They just are. And like I said, I don't spend a lot of time watching pro fishing, so I don't know who the other guys have.
There's some good announcers out there too, but
there are some good ones. There are also some bad ones.
I agree.
And I don't remember which podcast. I think it might have been an Alex Rudd podcast where they were, well, I won the classic in '86 and this and this and this.
Yeah. I heard that too. I don't remember what it was on, but it was something recently that they were talking about.
Yeah, it was. And it's like, that's exactly how some of this is. And you're right. That is like, that's not what you need whenever you're staring at the back of somebody's head. Whenever you're staring at the back of somebody's head, what you need is somebody who can tell you what's going through their head, whether they can see the screen or not, and kind of explain. Even if you can't see the screen, you can explain, water conditions, weather conditions. I understand there's only so much of that you can do, but at the same time, you can be a color analyst without making it boring. And that is another thing that MPFL blew out of the water, was the personalities that they got to do that.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, that, like I said, and I commented on there. I don't remember if it was I think they clipped some of it, and I think it was on Luke Duncan's Instagram, and I commented on there and tagged him and Fat Cat both in it, and just, told him, like, dude, that was, it was one of the longer low budget lives from last Monday, and now that'll probably be 2 Mondays ago when this comes out, but it was one of the longer episodes, but you didn't even want it to end. I mean, it was, those guys have so many stories, and, both of those dudes are just real dudes. You know what I mean? Not to say that nobody else is, but, some of the things they brought up, some of the things they talked about, they talked a little bit about, men's mental health, and they just went into some things that you don't expect dudes to go into. And it's nice to hear, it's nice to hear that. And, I just really enjoyed that. So if you guys haven't, go give it a listen. It's well worth it.
Absolutely. Well, man, I think we are pretty well caught up with each other now. You had anything else that you wanted to add to this conversation tonight?
No, man, I'm looking forward. I'm going to try to fish Battle at the Border. That's coming up in a couple of weeks, and Bugs Island. So I'm going to try to get up there, maybe camp for a night, pre-fish, and try to fish that, as long as nobody schedules anything else that I need to attend. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I did pretty good the last time I was up there. So I'm looking forward to doing that and getting another, some fellowship and some little camp out, maybe a little cookout, and just getting ready for kind of the off season. And I might hunt a little bit. I might just keep the hammer down and just keep fishing all winter long. I really haven't decided. But try to maybe get out in the next couple of days when I got a little bit left to do on this kayak trailer, and then going to start hopefully hitting it pretty hard after work. Now that the grass has stopped growing, I can get out of work early and hit it some of the weekday afternoons. So that's my plan.
Nice. Well, I will say, I did want to mention, I try not to plug them too much on the podcast, just because I don't want to take away from others who are, supporting the podcast. But I did want to mention, I haven't mentioned them in a while, so I wanted to mention Carolina Waters. I'm on their pro staff, and we've had all of the guys from Carolina Waters on the podcast, had their stories shared. Just a awesome group of guys, but their apparel is also awesome. Robert has worn their shirt on the podcast. I wear one of their shirts whenever I'm fishing all the time. Super comfortable, lightweight, keeps the sun off of you, moisture wicking, SPF, all that good stuff, or USPF, or whatever those letters are. They're just awesome. They got the one with the hood on it. So just wanted to throw that out there. If you're looking for, some of that performance gear that is a little bit more budget friendly than a lot of the big names out there. They have some awesome designs right now. They have some awesome ones coming out for next year. So if you're looking into getting a hold of some of that, use promo code STEEL15. It'll get you 15% off of your order. So just wanted to throw that out there, just because it has been a while since I've mentioned that. So
one thing on that, while you got that brought up, because one thing I always thought is, a fishing shirt's a fishing shirt. I would buy a fishing shirt because I like the design on it, or it said PFG, or it said, whatever it was on there. One thing about that Carolina Waters shirt and shirts is it has a different feel to it. It almost, it's not as expensive, but it feels way more expensive than a lot of my other fishing shirts. And I don't know what the difference is in the material that they use, but it's got a little bit of extra stretch in it, and it almost, you have to get one and try it. It's really hard to explain, but that's one of my most favorite shirts, and I've got a couple, but it's just one of those things when you put it on, you're like, oh yeah, this is how a fishing shirt is supposed to feel. So, and I'm not on their team, I'm not sponsored by them, but I just like their products. So you guys check them out, grab one of their shirts, and then you'll be ordering some more if you try one.
Absolutely. That's what happened to me.
Yep.
I tried it because Jay Jackson from J2 Country mentioned them as one of his supporters whenever he was on the podcast the first time, and I was like, well, I like fishing shirts, I'll try one too. And
yep.
Here I am on their pro staff because I kept buying more of them. But yeah, after that speech, man, we need to have you on the pro staff too. But but yeah, let's go ahead. Let's thank a couple more sponsors, and then we'll close it out with some prayer.
Sounds good. A huge selection and crazy fast shipping is already enough to turn heads as an online tackle shop, but Omnia Fishing sets themselves apart with their ambassador program. With Omnia, you can send in fishing reports for your local lakes that recommend baits, structure, tactics, and gear. And when another angler takes your advice and purchases something from your report, you get credit for it to spend at Omnia. The best part means that with Omnia Fishing, you can shop by lake and purchase baits and gear that are proven to work where you're fishing. To get started, go to omniafishing.com and use promo code FNF15 to save 15% on your first order. Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast, with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on-the-water courses and demos. And we'll even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check out shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
All right. So just a quick I don't know if I was muted that whole time, but just a quick thing to in all of our episodes, there's a link in the show notes that says all things faith and fishing. If you want to know more about any of the products that we talk about up here from our sponsors or people that we're affiliated with in any way, if you want to, find our merch, if you want to, find our website, learn more about anything that we've got going on, go ahead, click that link, and it'll bring up a list of things that you can click on. It'll take you right to it. So anything from, YouTube to sponsor links to whatever, if it's faith and fishing related, you can find it on that link. So go ahead, click on that and check that out. But yeah, let's close it out in prayer, Robert. God, thank you for this podcast and for this opportunity to share our passion and share our friendship with others who are, in the same boat with us, or on the bank with us, or wherever they are with us in this fishing journey. wherever they are in their life journey right now, God, I pray that you meet them where they are, and present them with what it is that they are needing right now. I pray that you put on a show in and through their life and in and through this podcast. We pray that you continue to bless this podcast and use it to further your kingdom and to further the fishing community and build that camaraderie and build it in your name. And God, we ask that wherever we are right now, whoever is listening to this, pray that you take over their day, their morning, their week, their month, whatever it is that they need to really push forward and to make this a phenomenal time in their life. Pray that you give them the tools and the strength to do that. God, we love you, and it is in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care and God bless.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by Cam Steele and Robert Randolph and is sponsored by Savior Outdoors, Jay's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, Atollas, and Omnia Fishing. Don't forget to join the Facebook community, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.